Well, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chloe. I'm on beautiful UCLA campus today, and I drove all the way out here to try and take my own professional headshots for like LinkedIn, and because I didn't get my graduation shots on campus because I was class of 2020. But class of 2021 has taken over campus. So to make use of my trip, I'm gonna go show you a little tour of the sculpture garden. So let's go. So this up here is Bunch Hall. It's really ugly, don't love it. And right through there is where you get to the Franklin D. Murphy Sculpture Garden. And fun fact, this building was purposely built up on stilts like this so you could see directly into the garden. So, I may have mentioned this in a previous video, but I, during my last 2 years at UCLA, worked for the Hammer Museum, which is UCLA's art museum. And the Franklin D. Murphy Sculpture Garden behind us is cared for by the Hammer Museum. And, well, I should say this Serra is actually owned by Eli Broad, who built the art school. It's not actually owned by UCLA. It's not part of the Sculpture Garden collection. But because I worked there as a student educator, museum educator, I gave lots of sculpture garden tours. So I can give you the lowdown on the history. First, I'm going to share with you. These are figures by Matisse. There are 4 of them, and as you go across, they were actually made over a series of 4 decades. And you can see, I'll do a close-up shot of it, how he gets more abstract as time goes on. It's the same figure, and I love it. So I'm gonna share more tidbits as I go along. So yes, I did change in the bathroom to get a different look, but I wanted to tell you about this piece right here. It's called Oboe 69. This is probably really loud, so I'm gonna step away for a minute. So it was made by an artist named George Tsutakawa. He was American. He passed away a decade or so ago. He's an American artist, but he grew up in Japan. When he was about 10 or so, he moved to Japan and was raised until his late teens by his grandparents. Fun fact, this was the first piece that I ever toured on my own. It was the first piece I researched and then toured, so it has a very special place in my heart. He actually was trained as an engineer before going to art school. So a lot of his works are things like fountains and public sculptures. And Oboe comes from this Tibetan ritual when you're on a pilgrimage. Along the way, you build these little like altars where you stack rocks on top of each other, and they're this way of saying thank you for a safe voyage, etc. And he made multiple iterations of this, and it was made in 1969, hence Oboe 69. And a lot of his work is public sculpture and fountains, which the engineering comes through. And he really wanted to think about how objects in these public spaces they can be intimate experiences, but yet public view. So like these oboes that you would find, they represented something very intimate, but were out in the public. Fun fact, when we were first touring this, somebody stripped down, like random strangers stripped down and jumped in the fountain and was swimming. So what's really great about the sculpture garden is there are no guards, there are no walls, there's nothing stopping you from touching the artwork, but there's a lot of respect for it. So more of the history, Franklin D. Murphy, who was the third chancellor of UCLA, he's really the one that established this garden. We're here right on the north edge of campus. In front of me is McGowan Hall and Melnitz, which is the School of Film and Theater. And we have the art school and then the arts library, public affairs building. And Franklin D. Murphy was really the chancellor who built the arts at UCLA and helped establish LA itself as an art center. He was on the board of LACMA, the LA County Museum of Art, and so art was a big part of his passion. As a college student, he went to Europe and studied abroad, and there he saw that you would have famous works by Michelangelo or other famous sculptors and children running around. And if you can see in the background, there's a lot of people just hanging out near the artwork. And he called it an education in beauty. He wanted this to be a place where students could come and be around nature and just breathe in this beauty without the restrictive walls of a museum. And the whole point is anybody in the area can come here. It's one of the largest public sculpture gardens in the country. And it's, I think, something that really represents the love of this space. It opened in 1963, and during the Vietnam War, they wanted to put walls around the sculpture garden because they were worried that a lot of the works would be vandalized, as other buildings on campus were, especially because there were a lot of protests around the war on campuses, etc. And they wanted to put walls around it, and Franklin D. Murphy was adamant that this was meant to be for everyone. And while other buildings on campus were tagged, nothing in the sculpture garden was touched. And I think it just represents how beloved this space is. It's really quite beautiful. I'll give you some more shots. And the fun thing is, this used to be a dirt parking lot. It would, when the Santa Ana winds, that if you live in Southern California, you've experienced, they're insane. It would kick up the dust. It would flood when it would rain. It's just a disaster. And so he really wanted to think about community and making this a public space. So I'm here on a Saturday. It's a weekend. People from the neighborhoods are coming here and hanging out. People are with their dogs. It's really lovely and a very special place in my heart. So another fun fact about the sculpture garden, the way it was designed is there's an entrance near Bunch Hall where we entered, and an entrance there, and an entrance here, but it's kind of enclosed. The way the architect and landscaper designed it is that it's supposed to feel like this intimate space. So this is a favorite of mine here in the sculpture garden. It's Pensive by the artist Deborah Butterfield. It was made in 1996. And what looks like driftwood is actually cast bronze. She lives in Hawaii, or she splits her time between Hawaii and Montana. And in her studio in Hawaii, she collects driftwood and then casts it in bronze so it's able to withstand the weather. And Deborah Butterfield grew up on a horse ranch, and she loves horses. And she really wanted to combat this idea that you have in art history of the war horse. So when you see famous generals, they're always on a horse ready for battle. But growing up with horses, she knew that's not how they are. They have, beautiful spirits and can be quite pastoral, etc. And so she creates these skeletons out of driftwood. This one, Pensive, is actually named after one of her actual horses. And when the sun hits it and the shadows, it almost looks like it's breathing. And the way it's in the setting, it almost looks like it's going to eat. And this idea of how it fits in with the trees in the back, I really, really love it. It's a favorite. And because UCLA's sort of bougie, we have a Rodin. It's really cool. This is Walking Man, and it's really cool when between classes, this area is just bustling with students and people running to and from class, and he just kind of seems like one of them. And I should say this was given by the Alumni Association, UCLA Alumni Association, from the Norton Simon as a tribute to Franklin D. Murphy. That's also, I think, a fun fact about the garden, that most of the sculptures here were gifts. I don't think, I'd have to do my research, but I don't think any of them were actually purchased, which I think really speaks to how the community feels about UCLA and the art scene we have here. Yes, I changed again because I finally found a spot to take a photo for my LinkedIn that wasn't taken over by senior photos. So ran into the bathroom, changed, got my shot. I'm very happy. I'm back in the car. I guess this will be like a day in the life vlog. It's gonna be really short, but I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about the Murphy Sculpture Garden. It's a lovely place, and if you're on the west side, you should come check it out. Parking is like $6 for 3 hours, or you could park in Westwood Village, grab some lunch, walk on over, make it a picnic, you get some exercise. I mean, honestly, it's like one of my favorite places in LA, and I've lived here since I was 7. So if you live in the area and it's walking distance to you, just do that. Anyway, this is a long rambling way of ending the video from my car. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like, make sure to subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye all.